Welcome to All Things Retreat Podcast. I'm Holly Porter, your host and CEO of Retreat R&R. With over 25 years of experience in designing transformative retreats, I'm here to share insights and inspiration to help you create extraordinary experiences. Whether you're a pro or just starting out, you'll find valuable ideas here. Enjoy the ride. Let's dive in. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the show today. We have a fabulous guest. Her name is Sarah Waldbuesser. She's a trademark attorney and the owner of Destination Legal and Twist Law. After several years at a law firm and a few career pivots, she discovered a passion for helping entrepreneurs build and protect their brands. Today, Sarah works with business owners around the world to secure their most valuable assets, their brand, through smart legal strategies that make protection feel approachable and empowering. A passionate adventurer, traveler, and food and wine enthusiast, Sarah loves connecting with like-minded entrepreneurs and chasing new experiences. When she's not at her computer, you'll find her exploring epic destinations, savoring wine with friends, or spending time with her two little ones. Welcome to the show, Sarah.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, let's do a couple fun questions to just kick this off today. You speak about a couple times in that bio, wine, adventure, or trademark talk. What lights you up lately?
I have to say it's trademark talk, only because, as we were just chatting before, I just got back from a big year-long adventure abroad, which included stops in Italy. So I feel like I've had a lot of wine, a lot of adventure, and now we're kind of, buckling down and doing business, and I'm just diving, into all things trademark. It's a really exciting time right now as well with all of the AI stuff happening and a lot of new brands popping up around AI. And there's some interesting trademark and IP issues around that as well. So I'm going to go with trademark for now.
I love it. Well, especially if you've already been having all the wine and the fun. So that's
exactly.
A great answer. Ready to roll your sleeves up and get back to work. What's one legal myth about entrepreneurship that you wish you could bust once and for all?
So I think one big myth is that smaller business owners, when they're just starting out on their entrepreneurial journey, think that they don't need to think about legal. They think about it as something that only big businesses need or corporations need, especially in the online space. People are like, I don't need contracts. I don't need terms. I don't need a trademark. And that is the biggest myth. Everyone who is starting a business, collecting money from day one, needs to make sure they have their legal foundation in place.
I think so too. And not wait till you're in trouble, because when you're in trouble, if you are a small business, you don't have the funds to fight it.
Exactly. And whereas, up front, you could spend a couple hundred, maybe a couple thousand, whereas later down the road, if you run into an issue in a lawsuit, it's tens of thousands and thousands of dollars and could totally put you out of business, like you just said. Whereas if you just spend a little bit up front to get those foundations in place, then you'll be way more secure.
Well, and I look at it even not just protecting your information, but you going in and using something that's already protected and not being aware and getting sued for that.
100%. Yeah, that's something we can definitely dive into as well. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, my theory is God's my higher power, but I believe God gives many people the same ideas and people just don't know how to take action and get it done. So it's kind of like first to market, first to trademark, first to copyright. It's like they're the ones that are going to be able to make it happen. So anyway.
Absolutely.
Well, so if you could trademark a feeling or a vibe, what would yours be called?
So I love this question. I think right now it's peace. Because, I, as the mom of two young kiddos, and, I'm always looking for more peace in my life, but I also help my clients find peace in their life. And, I'm really kind of trying to get the message out there that the more protected you are, the more peaceful you will feel in life and business. So I would say that's the vibe we're going for these days.
That's my favorite word these days too. And I finally feel it. I've had a rough few years with
100%. Yeah.
Ready to feel that peace. It's a feeling that if you haven't been able to grasp it is like no other. So I like that. Well, You've had quite the journey from traditional law firm to building two entrepreneurial legal brands. What inspired you to shift into working with creative entrepreneurs and retreat leaders.
Yeah, I'll keep the story concise. I was living in Washington D.C. over a decade ago in my supposed dream job where I actually got to travel quite a bit. Travel is a huge passion of mine. But I just wasn't happy. I just, was sitting in a windowless office writing reports for the government that nobody ever read and knew there was something more for me. I always wanted to just be free. I wanted to work when I wanted, where I wanted, whether that was Starbucks or Thailand. And I eventually took the leap and quit my job and started an online business, which back then doing legal online was kind of unheard of. It didn't last very long. But that was the start of my journey. I then became a digital nomad. I traveled for about a year and a half, and I thought I was going to do something else because I wasn't very happy as a lawyer. So, I had an e-commerce store, I was doing consulting, but the more people I met on the road, and once I, kind of got into the coaching space, they just wanted legal help. They wanted a contract, they wanted a privacy policy, they needed a trademark. And so finally, I kind of shifted my mindset of like, legal isn't fun to, legal is fun. It is amazing. It's powerful. It's empowering. And so over the past decade, I've been able to help, mostly women, coaches, online business owners, small business owners protect their businesses. And so, the more protected we are, the more money we make, and more money, as we know, in the hands of women doing amazing things, the world is just a better place. And so, I listened to the universe who kept saying, legal's your thing, Sarah, whether you want it or not. And I've just made it my thing. And so over the past 10 years, I've gotten to work with so many amazing people. And, the retreat space especially is because I'm a big traveler. Anytime I can travel for business, whether it's talking at a retreat or going on my own retreat, one day I hope to host my own retreat. I just think when we get out of our everyday lives and experience new people and new places and new things, that we're all just the richer for it. And so I love really diving into that industry and making sure retreat hosts are protected legally.
Yeah. I love that you found your niche and that you didn't give up, because law school's a long time in school. And that's a long ways to go. And I've heard this story where, they get done and they get out of law school and they don't like it. And so I love that you were able to create something that you do like and feel at peace with. And that's amazing, because a lot of people never figure that out. And I'm not saying just as attorneys, lawyers, in anything, especially when you go and spend 6-8 years in school, or any amount of school, I would say.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I have friends from law school who did it for a year and then had totally different careers. I have friends that are miserable in their legal careers, and then ones that, like it or have been able to shift into something else and
Yeah.
make it their own.
Right. Yeah. Well, nothing's wrong with education, but yeah, it's hard when especially if you're in debt for it. That's a lot to
Yeah.
have to not love what you do every day. To me, my motto is, if it's not fun, I'm not doing it. And so I can shift on a dime. If I wake up the next morning and there's something that needs to change, like, I'm already on the path to changing it, because life's too short not to be happy.
100%. I'm in the midst of that right now, kind of starting another brand. And, for a while I fought it because I just felt like I had to stick with what I had been doing. But, as entrepreneurs, as business owners, as people, we change. So what we loved and what served us 10 years ago might not be that thing still, no matter how successful it is. So I think as entrepreneurs, especially, we're always reinventing ourselves, and that should be okay, right?
Well, and if it's not okay, make it okay. Make it
Yeah.
okay with you, because really you're the one you have to live with every day and look at in the mirror. And there's just find joy in what you're doing. And if you're not finding joy in it, figure out a way to change it. I know it can't be done overnight in a lot of circumstances, but yeah, I'm all for that. So there's the empowerment piece for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go figure it out. Make yourself happy if you're not.
Yeah.
Well, all right, let's jump into a little bit talk about retreats. Many of our listeners host retreats and they build brands around their personal transformation. Why is trademark protection especially important for this kind of heart-centered work?
Yeah. So anyone that's building a retreat business or hosting retreats, you're investing, time, energy, and dollars into that business, into that brand. And if you don't have a registered trademark, you don't own your brand. And if you don't own it, it means that somebody else could. And so as long as you don't have the trademark, you're kind of in this territory where you could lose it at any moment. Say, running a business without a trademark is like building a house on land you don't own. Somebody could come at any moment and knock down that house. And so you don't want to spend the next 3, 5, 7 years building up this amazing brand that you become known for, that you're hosting retreats all over the world. And then, in a few years or months, you get a cease and desist letter in the mail that says you have to change your name in the next 2 weeks. No one wants to get that email. And so the way to protect yourself from that is to own your name. And then it becomes a business asset. Having a trademark is something that can be bought, it can be sold, it can be traded.
Right.
And it just allows you to have that peace, speaking of peace, that peace of mind that you actually own your retreat business.
Yeah, for sure. And especially if you have a unique name or something that is trademarkable. And I know you'd probably do pre-research beforehand to see before you dig into it. But I'm kind of curious. So some of our listeners listening to this, let's talk about like what kinds of things are and are not trademarkable, and then maybe a little bit of the cost of what is it per name? Is it what does that look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can trademark anything that is named after something you're selling. So it does have to be a service. So hosting a retreat, a coaching package, any physical products you might be selling, but it does have to be something you're selling. And it can't be too descriptive of what it is. So it would be difficult to trademark the retreat if you're hosting retreats, right? And so, you would want the best trademarks are the most unique names. So when you think of Apple, you couldn't trademark Apple if you're selling apples, but you can trademark it for technology, right? What's another good example? So, interestingly, like Dove chocolate, Dove soap, those are both trademarks in different classes. So it's all dependent on the type of business you're in. You can have overlap there because it wouldn't be confusing to consumers. If I said I had a piece of Dove chocolate, or I had a piece of Dove after lunch, you would know I was having chocolate, not soap. But if I were selling birds, doves, I couldn't name my business Dove. So it can't be too descriptive. And other than that, the only other rule is like nobody else could have a similar name already. So when you go to register a trademark, you work with a trademark attorney, and we do a very comprehensive search just to make sure there aren't any conflicting names out there already. Because if you try to trademark something that's already been trademarked, you're not going to be able to. And so you really want to have unique names and be sure that someone else doesn't already have it. So, when you're naming your business, when you're naming your retreats, things like that, there are a couple things you can do to make sure that you aren't going to run into issues. One is just Google it, Google the name, see what comes up, go to social media, see what comes up. And then you can go to uspto.gov, and they have a free search engine there where you can type in the name that you're thinking about and see what else pops up. Now, you're probably not going to catch everything. We're trained to do certain things in our searches. And in terms of trademark, it doesn't have to be the exact name to be an issue. It's whether there's likelihood of confusion amongst consumers. So you could have two similar names that might be an issue. So, one of my businesses is called Destination Legal. If someone tried to trademark like Destination Law, that would be an issue. But if it was like Destination Retreat, that wouldn't be an issue because I'm in legal and they're in retreat. So some of those nuances are things that, working with an attorney can really help you. In terms of, investment in time, it's a very long process. It can take up to a year or more. If you've been through it, things can go wrong along the way. If there's something wrong with your application or your class description, that can delay things as well. But the good news is the minute you file your application, your legal protection starts. So if I filed today and you filed tomorrow, the trademark office wouldn't even look at your application until mine is processed. So, you can kind of breathe a little bit once you file that application. In terms of cost, you have a number of classes depending on what you're selling, and there's a class fee involved with that. That's $350. And then if you're working with an attorney, it can really vary from, $1,500 to $5,000. And so you really want to, a couple things to keep in mind if you're looking for a trademark attorney, what's included in their package. So some will just file and then they leave you. They don't help you along the way, or if you need more help, they're going to charge more. So you might want to look for a package that includes everything. And so that's something to be aware of. And then just, are they primarily a trademark attorney, or are they also doing real estate and family law and criminal law, right? You want someone that really is in the intellectual property arena, to make sure they're up to date on all the nuances and things that are changing within the law.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's great. What's the most important thing legally to protect a retreat?
So even before a trademark, because a trademark is nice, but the most important thing for a retreat host to have is a retreat contract. So every person that is signing up for your retreat needs to sign a retreat contract, because as a retreat host, a retreat business doing in-person events, whether you're in California, Costa Rica, or Croatia, you're opening yourself up to huge liability. It just, it's very different than if you're working in the online space or things like that. And so many things can go wrong, from slip and falls to someone breaking an ankle in yoga to an allergic reaction to, a Uber car accident on the way to the airport to, it just runs the gamut. Someone having a heart attack while sitting at dinner. So there are just so many things that can go wrong. You really need to make sure that you're protected as the retreat host. And then, your contract isn't only for you, it's for your, people as well. It outlines what's included. You don't want on your retreat, you don't want there to be ambiguity there, right? Like, is there lodging included? How many meals are included? What activities are included? Are drinks included? Is spa included? You really want to have all of that outlined in your contract. And then things like, are you requiring travel insurance? Do they have to show proof of that? If you're international, maybe it's up to them to make sure that they don't forget their passport or their visa. And then another just huge one is, what's your cancellation policy? What if someone, has a death in the family? What if someone, gets pregnant and can't travel? Like, retreats are booked out pretty far in advance. Right. Sometimes life happens. So making sure that you have, cancellation policies, whether it's 30 days out, 60 days out, 90 days out, that allows you as the retreat host to recoup costs, to, no refunds. You can come on the next retreat. That's really up to the host, but just to make sure that that is all really clear. So, just for sure, the most important thing is a really solid retreat contract. Yeah. Yes. And, COVID hit and so many retreat hosts lost money because they didn't have contracts in place to cover this type of event. And so, we over at Destination Legal, where I sell retreat templates, we added in a COVID waiver so that, again, it was on the person signing up to make sure that they were healthy, and that, if they had to stay home because of COVID, it wasn't going to fall on the retreat host. So this is really in your best interest as a retreat host to make sure you have a contract in place that was written by an attorney. You're not ChatGPTing this. You're not Googling this. You need to make sure that you get a contract or a template from an attorney that knows the retreat industry.
What's the downfall of someone going and getting it from ChatGPT?
It's ChatGPT. I have. They will tell you not to rely on this contract. Yeah. And I've asked it to do different contracts. There's always holes in it. And, if you didn't go to law school, you don't know what you don't know. So it could spit out a contract and you're like, hey, this looks great. But you don't really know if it is great or not, or if it's going to hold up in court or not. And so, you might be 95% sure, but there's always going to be that little percent. And again, coming back to peace, if you're up at night wondering, is this contract really going to protect me? You're not going to have the peace. So you're just never going to know if that contract is legit or not.
So how can a retreat leader best protect their retreat brand as they grow?
And so through solid contracts. So in addition to your retreat contract, you want to make sure that you're using vendor agreements, whether they provide them or you provide them. And then that's where trademark comes in. So as you continue to grow your brand, having a registered trademark for either your overall brand, or I've done trademarks for retreats where someone's like, this is my signature program. This is my amazing retreat. And so we've trademarked that so that nobody else in the industry can use it. And so that's kind of that power, that owning of your brand that a trademark gives you.
If you want to sell your business later, that's worth money.
100%. If you ever think about selling your business or licensing or anything like that, you need to have a trademark in place.
Absolutely. Well, okay, super enlightening. One last question I have for you is, if you could host your own retreat anywhere in the world, even just for fun or just with some entrepreneurs, where would it be and what does that look like?
So this is such a hard question. I have two. Can I do two? So one is in Paris, and I have already envisioned this. It's in a beautiful white old Parisian building, just a small group of women chatting and growing businesses. And then the other is like a villa in Tuscany where we're doing wine tastings and, relaxing, maybe some workshops. So those are the two that are on my mind.
That's fun. I think, oh yeah, you'll have to let us know. I think those will be really fun. Well, yeah. I think any last words of wisdom that you could share with our guests? Not our guests.
Yeah, it's just, I would urge everyone who's hosting a retreat to not think of legal as scary, but something that's empowering. I know it can be overwhelming, and actually, we'll put this in the show notes, but I have a new guide coming out that is just all things how to protect your retreat from a legal perspective. That's just going to outline everything that you need to be thinking about, that you need to know, all in one place. And so I think that will be really helpful, because in this, area, like, knowledge is power. So just think of it as, helping your business, protecting your business. And the more you know, the better off you'll be. And then as, once you know it, you get these things in place, you check these boxes, and then you can get back to doing what you do best, which is actually hosting the retreat.
That is right. I love that. Well, that's good. And we'll also put Sarah's contact information. If you want to get hold of her, some ways to have her do some contracts for you so that you're covered on those. I think I have one more question around contracts. So if a retreat leader had a general contract made, but they wanted to insert like what is covered, because each retreat might be a little bit different, especially if it's in different locations. They don't want to start from scratch again. Is that something they could just update with you?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's different ways to do that. One, a lot of the contracts I do have like a main contract and then an attachment A, where attachment A outlines all of the things for that retreat. And so then you might have a bunch of different attachment A's. You might have one for Italy, one for Paris, one for Florida. And the contract just refers to it. So it says this retreat includes everything in attachment A. And that way the actual contract can stay the same. This is similar to how a consultant might have a scope of work. They have their basic contract, and then their scope of work changes depending on the client.
Right. I love that. Oh, that answered it. Okay. Well, all right, everyone. So be thinking about how you can make yourself more legal, I guess is the word, and make it something that, as we build our companies, it's nice to be able to sell them in the end and make value to it. If you're offering value, people want to come back and work with you more. And so I think that's so important. Oh, such good information today. So thank you, Sarah, for coming and speaking to our listeners. I really appreciate you being here.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
All right, everybody. Until next time, we will see you later. Bye for now.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of All Things Retreat. We hope you're leaving with new ideas, fresh inspiration, and the motivation to take your retreats to the next level. Don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review. It helps us grow and reach more retreat leaders like you. And if you have any questions, topics you'd like us to cover, or just want to say hello, send us an email at info@weretreatrnr.com. Follow us on social media to stay connected and catch all the latest updates. Until next time, remember, great retreats start with great intentions. Let's make them extraordinary, one step at a time. Thinking about hosting a retreat? Before you dive in, let's make sure you're really ready. Grab your free Are You Retreat Ready checklist and find out if you've got everything in place from your purpose and pricing to your audience and agenda. Don't guess, get clear. This quick checklist will show you exactly where you stand and what you need to make your retreat a success. Click the link below in the show notes to grab your gift and take the first step toward hosting with confidence.